Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Let's see who's out there in Facebook lands. So, has anybody noticed Boston is just different? Basically, Boston is just different, you know. And when you go around the country and you travel, you know, everywhere is jacked up in their own way. You know, if you talk to the locals anywhere you go, various locals are going to be able to point out, you know what I mean, whatever's wrong with their thing. But it amazes me. To me, how Boston is unique in, you know, we're a small town, big city, if you want to say. You know, it's only 680,000 people here. For people who don't know, you know, the borough of Brooklyn got over 1 million. So it's, you know, it's unique because we feel like we're a big city, but really we're not. And on top of that, too, the variety here. We have a wide variety, as you know. We have multiple different type of Africans from different nations who are here. You know, Caribbean community. Boston is the third largest Haitian population in the country. You know, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans. We go around the country. A lot of people don't have Dominicans. New York, you know, Boston. What have you, but you go down south, hey, that's new. Cape Verdeans, nobody knew about that, you know what I mean? On and on. So it's a thing where we have all of this, we have the education around us, we have all of this money around us. So how is it that all of these things exist and Boston is still as stupid and backwards and, you know, things ain't popping like anywhere else? It just doesn't make any sense. Surrounded by all these schools, for instance, and people here still stupid, right? Or surrounded by all this money and people still poor. You understand what I mean? Like in the literal, you know, the bastion of, you know, this city in a lot of ways symbolizes a lot of these things. So then it's not expected here in that type of manner. For football, we can get to that too, the black population. When I travel around the country, you know, a lot of people don't even know that there's black people in Boston, right? So there's that. They think we're like, I don't know, Idaho or Iowa or something. You know what I mean? And not for nothing, there's black folks in both of them places I just mentioned. But, you know, there's a perception here that Boston is just super white. And it's not based on population. I would submit it's based on the power dynamic. You dig? But when we look at, you know, the trajectory here, we've had some of the greatest come through here. You know, Malcolm X and all this. You know, Martin Luther King and all this. So how did we get from that to what I would say is this, right? We used to have Martin Luther King. Now we have Martin Luther King dinners and galas. Not the same thing. And the people who be at the forefront of these things, I don't see the king in them, you know, pun intended. Or all this Malcolm X stuff, and I don't see the X in them. You dig? So I see now too, a lot of people, and I'll put myself in this category, have made the black thing more acceptable. So, for instance, when Black Lives Matter came along, before that, for those that don't remember, we in the Black Power movement, Black Revolutionary movement, Black Conscious movement, we were talking about the devaluation of black and brown lives. See that? Somebody boiled it down to a very simple phrase, which actually was genius. I'm not mad at that. To a simple phrase, you know, bumper sticker politics. It's like Jesse, up with hope, down with dope. You know what I mean? Go ahead. So, I guess they coming from a protest. Free Palestine, yeah, free Palestine for sure. But it's like the sloganeering took over, in my view, the actual works. And I was like, Black Lives Matter. Okay, and people were doing the slogan. But then if you really got down to the people who was behind the actual slogan, the movement, you knew it was actually something different. You know, they slipped a banana in the tailpipe. You dig? And folks thought that they was getting one thing and then they got another. You dig? And at the end of the day, too, in the beginning, there might have been some pure motivations and intentions, but, you know, for those of us who've been around the block a couple times, as soon as money was injected, it was a rapolio, right? Same thing happened with Occupy the Hood. Not for nothing. You dig? Money gets in the mix. People start, you know, feeling themselves and acting brand new. Brand new. And you already know. But here in Boston, I am amazed. So, for instance, let's all put our thinking caps on. Let's think about this. How many galas, awards, you know, whatever, all of these things that are here to pat us on the back, right? Celebrations of self, right? How can we simultaneously be doing so great? We're so great. Everybody's getting an award for excellence and achievement. How can we be doing so great and doing this bad? Think about that. Think about that. You dig? If you a Batman and you say, I fight crime. You know, the thing about Batman was, even though crime still went on, people were scared when they were doing it, because Batman might come. And if you saw that shadow in the sky, you was like, oh man, I better get out of here. So we have a lot of stuff in our community where folks are saying they're the ones handling the education, but education is messed up. They say they're the ones handling mentorship. And there's many young men, particularly, you know, with no mentors. You know, so we cannot, in my view, simultaneously pat ourselves on the back for a job well done when, quite simply, the job ain't done. And once again, as y'all know, you know, your boy goes and does the food thing every Sunday. You know, did it this morning as well. Shout out to my brother Divine, you know, holding it down even when it's however cold it was this morning. It warmed up now. It's 43 now. Yeah, but it was cold this morning. Whatever. But doing the thing. Like, do you think that I think that I'm solving hunger? Or even really putting a dent in it? Okay, think about that. My little 40 boxes of food. You dig? Wherever I'm going. So it's a blessing to those that receive it, but that's not putting a dent in the overall situation. And I think too many of us are willing to, here in Boston, it's a lot of accolades, and I just don't see the accomplishments. You dig? So it gets me, and when I see a lot of the some of the documentaries now that have come out, both Trial 4 and now the recent one are related to the Charles Stewart, a murder in Boston. Both of those have come out, and I've seen people's reaction to it, and so on. And what I also realized too is that everybody doesn't have the same toolkit. You dig? So, let's say you have a bad disease or a bad condition. All right. You go to a bootleg doctor, but all the bootleg doctor got is the stethoscope, and he got the thing to go in your ear. Right? That's it. So all you can tell me is my ear temperature and if my ears are clogged up, and you can listen to my heartbeat. But what I need is a CAT scan. You see what I'm saying? I need an MRI. I need somebody who has the in-depth technology that's going to be able to do an entire scan of, in this case, the situation, in order to give a proper assessment. And then also, too, that's a great analogy. Wow. Because, okay, also, too, it's not just about the proper equipment, but it's who is not even running the equipment, but now who's going to do the assessment. So, look, if y'all literally had an MRI or a CAT scan, and you show it to me, I can't, as smart as I am and all that wonderful me, I can't read nothing about that because I don't know how to read an MRI or a CAT scan. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes, you know how people show the first baby picture joint, they show the sonogram? I don't even be, people be like, oh, you can see his little face there, and you can see, oh, it's a boy, you see his little winky wink there, and you see the, I'd be like, it looks like a blur to me. So what I'm saying is, without the trained eye, even with the proper equipment, you may not get to the proper analysis, right? So that's what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, here in Boston, we have too many people who lack either the proper equipment to even produce the scan, and then lack the proper expertise in which to even provide an analysis. But yet, they are an expert and lauded. And when I say about, what I started with, folks such as myself, making the black thing popular. I mean, I remember years ago, like, nobody was talking about the red, black, and green flag, reparations, none of this. In fact, people were scared of it. They thought that they was going to lose jobs, lose whatever little prominence they thought they had in society. I'm talking about the bourgeoisie crowd now. So it's just very funny now that not only have they now that it's popular and now that it's okay, now, they out and loud and proud, and now, in fact, they trying to take over something from which, as I said, they used to be afraid of and shied away from, and also a subject of which they know the least about. So now, as we watch Black History Month, look at all the people now who are doing it because it's popular, not because they have anything to offer about Black history or that they've ever been champions of Black history or proponents of it or whatever. And it's just, I don't know. Boston is stuck on stupid. And I don't know how we fix it. You dig? We have people who were never even participatory in the game, who are now running it or saying that they're at the forefront of it. You got people who say, I always love when people be like, man, I do the work. Or I did the work. Like, define the work, please. Like, what in fact did you do? And that's not a diss. That's just a qualifier. Okay, like, if I say, yo, I went to school. Okay, great. Most people went to school. But what are you talking? You talking about kindergarten? You talking about first grade? You talking about high school? Like, you didn't even say you graduated. Not that means anything, but I'm just saying all of these type of things, we have to put it in perspective. You can't just let anybody say, I went to school. Okay, great. What school? Where? When? What did you study? What's your expertise? How far did you go? These are questions that happen. So when people say, I do the work or I did the work, what work? What are you talking about? And once again, that's not a diss. That's not a slight. We should be specific. You know what I mean? For those out there who were challenged, I said specific. Not like a lot of people be saying, Pacific, which is an ocean or a coast. You dig? You dig. And it will be just them people who don't know the difference between Pacific and specific, right? That want to have a mentoring program where they're going to teach your kids how to read or something. You follow what I'm saying? This is what I mean when Boston is stuck on stupid. Okay? And it's been too long where we haven't dealt with what's real. I mean, I remember a grip ago when I was just trying to deal with the black churches, just about all the sexual abuse and the molestation that is taking part in the black church. Now, you would think these are supposed to be godly men and all this, right? Who wants sexual abuse and molestation in your church? That should be no one, right? Right. But when proposed with a plan to meet and talk about it, to begin to work against it and eradicate it from the church, right? Who was the least receptive to that? Was it I, the sinner, who proposed it? Or was it the saints who tell you, send your kid here for Sunday school, summer camp, and all this type of thing? And ain't even got a contingency plan to protect your kid. Won't even tell you about all the sexual molestation and all these type of things that have happened in their facilities. There's no reporting. There's none of this. And I'm talking about some of the most prominent churches in Boston, with some of the most prominent pastors who going to tell you how to run your life and pull your pants up and do all this and bibbity boppity boop. But meanwhile, when presented with a real salient, like I've organized crack dealers, I've organized with gang members, I've organized with a bunch of people. You know, the most difficult and the most resistant to hearing anything about righteousness was actually the church folk. Ain't that sad? You dig? You would think if somebody came forth from the community and said, hey, can we have a discussion about sexual molestation, pedophiles and predators that may exist in the church, and how to eradicate that, you would think everybody would be like on board with that, right? That's what you would think, right? Okay. Folks, that was like, I don't know, 25 years ago now I tried that and have been trying ever since. Started an organization, website, if it's still up there, I ain't looked in a minute, Believers for Justice. You know, because this actually, I could timestamp it after the Catholic Church. Because everybody was like, ooh, them nasty Catholics, you know, them priests, and this and that, and I was like, well, that's not fair. Because, yes, them priests is nasty. Yes, them Catholics might be nasty. But I also knew that the Baptists, the Pentecostals, you know, you put in a religion, and under that religion, the 20 different denominations that's under that religion, and I'm going to tell you there's some freaky freaks in all of it. That's the part. In the name of God, though, right? So that's the part. So this is also, too, why it'd be very difficult for me to believe, particularly locally, some of these men who present themselves as men of God, because I know what I will and won't tolerate around me. So the fact that of what they tolerate around them without even wanting to discuss it or openly like condemn it. You've never heard anybody openly condemn sexual molestation, pedophilia, and sexual predators in the church, both male and female, because it happens on both sides, both male and female perpetrators and both male and female victims, young, old, and everything in between, right? You've never heard them condemn it. Is there anything easier to condemn? That would be like me going around to the churches and saying, I'd like to get a statement that says, cancer is bad. I think everybody would sign on and say, cancer is bad. Yes, cancer is bad. We don't like cancer. Boo, cancer. Right? Try to get them to do that with sexual molestation, sexual predation. You understand what I'm saying? This is what I'm talking about. Boston is stuck on stupid. But these are some of our leaders. On the black tip, you know, I've seen people, you know, see, I don't want to like, because this is not really trying to throw people under the bus specifically, but this is about a larger thing, right? I'm trying to throw the whole situation under the bus. not the individuals that are caught up in it, right? So it's almost like I'm saying drugs are bad, right? I'm not trying to shame individual addicts who got caught up in it, swept up in it, right? I'm trying to talk about the entire situation. So here in Boston, y'all have heard the saying, do something strange for a piece of change. Man, it might have originated here. And I don't mean in a sexual manner, although that could be part of it. I'm just talking about what people do for money. You dig? So, the nonprofit relationship with, community, quote unquote, organizations and community movements. Once again, a lot of times the money gets in it and it get funny. You dig? Things change. People's priorities change. They're whatever. And then also too, whatever mission you're doing as a nonprofit, let's say you get, you doing the Save the Kids, right? Now you get a $500,000 grant to save the kids. So now, first of all, how much of that do you take for yourself? For some people, that would immediately mean that they take $250 for self, maybe hire a couple other people at $50, $60 each, and then by the time it's all done, you might have $100,000 to save the kids. And then a year later, there's no data to show that you saved any kids, let alone the kids. Most of these people up here in Boston, they get a nonprofit with a lofty title and a lofty mission. And then what they do eventually is they're event promoters or something. They do an event. I don't see a bunch of work. I see a bunch of events. You dig? And most of which are corny as well, which is why, guess what? I'll give you $10 every time you see me in public. If you see me in public, you catch me, you be like, gotcha. I give you $10. Okay? Because, and then not for nothing. In one of these, what I'm going to typify as foolish, waste of the time type of things. I don't go to them. I avoid them. I'm allergic to them. You dig? Because I'm not going to the Save the Children Gala, just to use that example. I'm not going to the Save the Children Gala, which is really serving up the ego of the Save the Children founder and executive director and CEO and bippity bop, and we taking pictures and, all this type of stuff. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with it. I can't deal with the self-congratulations and the self-aggrandizement and all that. I mean, like, it's really, we live in a society of fake it till you make it and the sycophants who love them. Exactly. The champagne liberal versus the revolutionary for decades. Exactly. The bourgeoisie versus the black masses, the lumpen versus the proletariat. You know what I mean? This is, it's unfortunate. The only thing that I can say is, at least, I studied the phenomenon and I had plenty of elders who put me on the game. So when it happened, at least it wasn't a surprise. I wasn't shocked and heartbroken, like, because that type of stuff, if you're a young person who comes into this super idealistic with no training, that type of stuff could wreck you. And just like what happens to people who go to church. They go to church, have a bad thing happen to them, and then they'd be like, man, screw God. And they'd be like, ho. God had nothing to do with what Twan did to you. That wasn't God. Don't blame God for that. You dig? That was just the sickness of humanity. You dig? But a lot of people do that and they get turned off by church, God, whatever, because they can't separate. And that's what happens a lot of times in the movement. You know what I mean? People come around the movement, they link up with somebody who's fraudulent. Let's say you linked up with Black Lives Matter or something like that, and then now you feeling disgruntled because you find out it wasn't, you got behind the curtain and you found out it wasn't what it was. You know what I mean? So for those who are sincere, these type of things can be disheartening and can actually break a person and make a person say, forget it. You know what I mean? Forget it. Which is actually dangerous, particularly for some of these, like, You know, once again, thank God I didn't get disgruntled, because there's several times with this movement stuff I could have easily been like, man, screw this. I'm just go back to the crack. I'm gonna just sell some crack and as much drugs as I can get. Forget it. And not for nothing, because what Nas say, nowadays the rap game reminds me of the crack game, where people are thinking they're escaping the streets to go into some sort of new endeavor that's gonna be better for their lives and move them up. And then you find out, God, dog, it's the same bull crap I was dealing with the other situation. The rap game reminds me of the crack game. Dog eat dog, people trying to pull each other down, so on and so forth. And so, you know, nowadays the black game reminds me of the crack game. You understand what I'm saying? Particularly with so many unstable people in it. You know what I mean? So, and wanting to borrow $1 can't make it up. So yes, nowadays the black game reminds me of the crack game. It's sad. It's sad. You dig? So, well, that's it. You know, Boston is stuck on stupid. I hope we do better. And yeah, you know, I hope we do better, but not for nothing, I ain't counting on it. I hate to say that, but you know, I don't have faith, and from everything I've studied and everything, like I don't think, oh, it's gonna get better, and in the end we're all gonna, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect. I don't think that's gonna happen. Every book of wisdom, ancient book, religious book that I know ends in a fiery ball. You dig? It's gonna be some sort of big cataclysm. You dig? And it's not a big coming together, it's actually a separation. You dig? It'll be the separation of, you know, the righteous and the wicked, whatnot. People think like everybody going. Everybody ain't going. You know what I mean? That's one thing, you know, I used to like about like the Jehovah's Witness philosophy, although I believe it may have changed a bit, but based on the scripture where it's like, yo, like, you know, it's only going to be 144,000 going to heaven, which is a super low number if you think about the population of the planet. That's pure. I've been to concerts with more than 144,000 people in them. You understand what I'm saying? So, like, or festivals rather. So that's a very low number. But what I like about it is that it really speaks to the fact that, you know, everybody ain't going. You know what I mean? And in the Bible, when it talks about, you know, there will be two women, you know, grinding, what do you call it? Mill at the grinding wheat at the millstone. And in the twinkling of an eye, one will be gone. And so what's that mean? And in the twinkling of an eye, one got left. You feel what I'm saying? So everybody ain't going. You've seen this from our great prophet, Harriet Tubman. You know what I mean? It's the same thing. And these philosophies and these scenarios, they play out time and time again through history and, you know, a multitude of various situations and whatnot. These things are not unique. They continue to happen throughout the multiverse. You dig? But all I can say is, you know, do the best you can. Try to be the best you can. Do the best you can. But once again, yeah, Boston is stuck on stupid. It's a hard city to live and exist in. And I'll just leave y'all with this. Me, with my brand of consciousness and everything, which I've been trying to pump consciousness into this city since I was a teenager. And this analogy I'm going to use, some of y'all may have heard it before. The product that I have, this black consciousness that I have, is grade A black consciousness. It's pure, 100% pure. But people just don't want it. So I feel like I'm a pork salesman in a Muslim country. I got the best pork. What do you want? Butcher block? Huh? Spiral ham? What do you want? All that. Boar's head? But you can't sell it because the community that you're in does not want it. Even though what you have is good quality, if there's such a thing as good quality pork, you get what I'm saying? But they just don't want it. They just don't want it. Or look, or trying to sell beef in an all vegan community. You got all the cuts. You got the New York. You got the, you know, the sirloin. You got the everything. Porterhouse. You got all that. Filet mignon. And what you think is a high value product has no value in this place that don't want what you're selling. So this is why, for me at least, and once again, thank God, it has been hurtful, and, you know, I can't act like, you know, I haven't been hurt by it over the years or shed no tears over the condition of our people here in Boston, Massachusetts, and in general. You know, I can't act like it hasn't bothered me completely, but the reason it hasn't completely consumed me and why I'm not curled up in a ball in my bed right now is because I get everybody ain't coming. You dig? And I also understand that everybody may not want what you're selling. You dig? So, Boston in many ways is stuck on stupid. All I can do is keep doing what I've been doing. I mean, like, what else I'm going to do? I'm not going to be one of these people on the corner, you know, back to the religious example, yelling in a bullhorn, "You must be saved!" You know what I mean? Like, what am I going to do? Nah, I'm going to mind my business and keep doing what I think is right. And, you know, and as I say in one of my rhymes, I'm going to do whatever I think is right, whether I'm deep or dolo. If there's 1,000 people behind me who want to feed people and do all the other stuff, police reform and whatnot, wonderful. But if I'm by myself, that's okay too. You dig? And so when you take on a mission or you take on a certain mindset, you gotta understand, like, you know, every day you leave your house, people are not gonna, you know, be shooting confetti cannons at you like, "Oh, you're so great and wonderful," and all this type of shit. Be nice, right? But it don't roll like that. You gotta do what you think is right because you really believe it's right. And that's when you go back, you know, the old school cartoons. True believers. Are you really a true believer in the shit that you say that you believe in? Not what I say. You don't be a true believer in what I say, right? But are you a true believer in what you say you believe in? What is your characters, your morals, your standards, your principles? All that. You dig? How my man say? Stand on business. You gotta stand on business. That was my impression. I hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next week for more comedy stylings. All right, y'all. Let me get out of here. All right? Go run these errands and all that good stuff. Y'all have a good one. I hope you're having a productive day, week, month, year, life, all that good stuff. All right, y'all be blessed. All right, peace. One.